one would like to think this would go smoother from one week to the next. But here we are. All right, everyone. Both watching right now. Hopefully, more people join us soon. I know a bunch of people are watching Salty's stream right now about his YouTube cancellation or not cancellation. The
Hmm. Be in the chat here.
That's that. That's what we're doing right now.
Ah,
So anyway, welcome once again to John and Roman Solve the World's Problems. It's a lie, but we say it every time we do this show. I'm, of course, Roman of the Empire with my co-host, John, the creative blue-collar guy. And with us this week, one of the great minds interweb, knowledgeable on many, many topics and circling around each other in the YouTube stratosphere for some time. And it's finally great to get to actually meet you and work with you tonight, Matt, Unbearable 73, or the Thad that shouldn't be, depending on where we are.
Greetings. Salve, Janus et Romanum ab Imperio. My old high school Latin. I still remember some of it.
Salve! It's great to have you here tonight. Tonight, we're going to be talking about something that is a good topic. We don't get a ton of these. And that topic is Eric July. And we got some other stuff we're going to tag on later on, but that's going to be the focus of the first half of this discussion tonight. And what July has done. So first question, who is Eric July? Because not everybody is necessarily aware of that.
Sadly, I was not aware of who he was until this week.
So
Guilty.
1 second, because my computer is fighting me this evening, which is always exciting when we're doing the live stream. Come on, do something resembling anything. Photos, and I have a black screen. Absolutely not what I was hoping for. Okay. Well, since I can't show you who Eric July is, I will tell you who Eric July is. Eric July is a YouTuber. He does For Canon's Sake, and he's often on Friday Night Tights with Gary and the boys. He is a musician, singer, and founder of Backwards. Kind of a sound that has some little message, but not in a bad way. And he's also done other music stuff as well.
That's actually where I knew him from
Commentator, he's a
originally.
partner in. That's where you know him from. Was from music.
Yeah, I was like, I knew because his music style is kind of like what they call rapcore, hardcore, metalcore style. And I always I always heard his band before, Backwards. I think it's Backwards. And I was like, hey, this guy talks about comic books on YouTube. So I said, let me check it out. And then I learned he's a libertarian through his commentary, and so he's a real cool guy, But like I said, the music is what I knew him from beginning with as a fan, Not like a giant oh my god, I have every album fan, but I'd heard his stuff before,
Right.
That actually could lead us into one of our other topics after this.
It could. And also, he works with the Blaze. And now, in this latest iteration, is Zach's yelling at me? What am I doing wrong? I know everything. Everything is. I cannot get anything to load tonight. Exciting. I wish that Matt were actually here right now so he could help me unscrew my system. No pictures. Okay, that's fantastic.
Well, what do you want? I can load. Maybe I can load it and you can see my screen.
Because I can't do. We'll just talk and see if I can muddle through this after. Stop thinking. Now he's a comic creator and writer, and he just launched the Rippaverse on Tuesday, and see if because for the love of God, something has to.
There we
So
go.
he launched.
Hey.
Hey, look, it actually worked. Rippaverse on Tuesday with the goal of making $100,000 within a 75-day period.
Wow.
And he is at $1,599,000. He's almost at $1.6 million, and good for him. And so, what I wanted to talk about, important, and I'm something else really fast. And what I'm going to share is another reason why this is important, because the comic book companies have been kind of shoveling us big piles of poo for a while now. We have Starfire's daughter. She's delightful.
And impossible.
Oh, and if
I mean,
actually play
I don't
the
know if
video,
you guys
it
are
helps.
you guys comic readers by the way?
So I was, and then I haven't for a while, largely because of stuff like we're seeing now.
Well,
I am
so-
a little bit. I have an incredibly small collection, but
So-
I'm more of the music guy.
I'm not like the last 5 or 6 years, especially with Marvel. I haven't bought a Marvel comic book since One More Day and Brand New Day. I won't until they undo that. I won't pay up for a Marvel comic, but I have read some of their stuff after that. Like the early Miss Marvel stuff in like the first 3 years of run was actually pretty good. Not great, but a good start to a new character, you know. But regarding Starfire's daughter, I don't think they understand. Like the Chimerians, what the hell are they? Tamirians are like Kryptonians. They're genetically engineered perfect beings. She can't have a fat daughter. It's impossible for a Tamirian or a Kryptonian to be fat.
And yet, well, it's funny though, because I didn't pull up a picture of the
Well,
comic
no,
book
yeah.
creator,
She-
but
like, she
this
can't-
is the comic book creator. She inserted herself into the book,
Yeah. Not only
which
that,
goes.
just so you finish it, because it's important to understand when you
Yeah.
create a character one way and then you just ignore the canon. Like Kryptonians just made themselves perfect, but didn't look how they look. Tamirians are hedonists. They all look like models and Playboy playmates and stuff. There's no ugly ones. You know what I mean? It's not in their genetic code, and they're all born at supermodels. You know. So when this came out, I was like, okay, fine. You want to do this with a character? I mean, yeah, you could have a few more obese characters or whatever. You know, if you're super powered and your character's 50 pounds or whatever, who's going to complain? You know, like there was a character called D-Man, if you remember him. You know, he was a class 10 brick and carried a beer gut. You know, but he was a cool guy. I could see doing this with some more characters, but this, no, this is uh, like Jane Foster Thor, right?
Yes.
There's a whole mechanism to have other people have the power of Thor. And if I'm ranting or anything or whatever, just tell me to stop. Okay, but
Oh no, please. That's what we're here to talk about tonight.
so for those who don't know it, there's a whole mechanism. They're called the Thor Corps, right? So Odin enchanted Mjolnir. Just like in Thor, the first movie, but in the comics, where if you are worthy and you can lift Mjolnir, you can get the powers that Odin grants Thor. Thor has his own powers as well. Besides that, that's why he's more powerful than other people who can, like Beta Ray Bill or Dargo Thor from 3550 or Red Norval or on, right? Even Jane could have been worthy, picked up the hammer and been a new character, like Thunderstrike, for example, another one. You know, she could have been,
Right.
I don't know, the nursinator, whatever you want to call her, you know, because she was a nurse and became a doctor, whatever you want to call her. And we would have been fine with it as fans. You know what I mean? But instead, they demasculated Thor, because Thor is actually his name. Thor, Odin's son. It's a male name. It's not even there's a girl version of that name too, by the way. But in the Norse, you know what I mean? And to make it even worse, there are still technically people who worship the Norse gods. There's a couple million of them out there, who some neo-pagans and some who kept the Old Norse religion, who Odin and Thor and whatnot. They're still their god. I mean, what are we living with? Like I have no problem with artistic freedom or doing cool stuff or making a new character, and that new character being gay or whatever, perfectly fine. But when you take an existing character, you're saying that a new character is not good enough to be gay. You have to have an old character be gay to make gay being good enough. you're insulting gayness, so to speak. You know what I mean? When you do that, it's even, you know. Anyway, sorry for the rant.
Or they go over the top like they did with the Safe Space and Snowflake.
Yeah.
That wasn't. They weren't just. It wasn't just a. I don't even know what their sexuality was because I don't care. But they were just over the top, in your face, woke characters with the sole purpose of existing to be woke.
Yeah.
Well, and it's I remember hearing people talk about the plan for the new Indiana Jones movie is to have a female character take over the mantle of Indiana Jones, which again, you could go and make a new character. I mean, the Lara Croft series, video game series, is really popular. The movies have been so-so, but you could make a new character that's a female explorer that's badass and whatever. But instead, just like this, they want an old character everyone loves and just slap a new sticker on it and be like, "Hey, you like? Let's change it." It's like, well, I like it the way it is. Make a new character.
Well, and again, so let's go back to why Eric July's what he has done, what he is doing right now is important. Let me share this screen again. So he put $200,000 of his own money into this. That was his startup, and then everything else is generated from this site, and as sales are going through. This is literally a self-made item. He didn't get any outside, other companies buying in any of that stuff. He did all this shit himself. His characters are all unique. He created everybody. He created the world that this all exists within. He didn't steal from somebody else to make his own thing. And people are going nuts. On Twitter, he is getting called all the names.
Oh, of course.
Because that's what happens when you go against their narrative. And on his site, the ethos that he has, and this goes back, Matt, to what you were just talking about. He has three major ethos. And I'm just going to read off the quick versions of it because they're a little bit long. The first one, and these are the nutshell versions. Respect the customer. Rippaverse Comics is not entitled to your money, and we must earn your support. It is on us as the creators to produce something that you find of value and can remain interested in. Who's doing that right now? DC? Marvel? The answer to that would be a resounding
nope.
No. I mean, Matt, you just said you haven't bought anything in a minute.
But let me just be fair. DC for the woke reasons, Marvel because of what they did to Peter Parker and Spider-Man before the wokeism even happened. All you can make an argument that the Brand New Day One More Thing was an example of wokeism because Peter couldn't be allowed to succeed. That's what that was about to a lot of us as fans, So he couldn't have a great wife. He couldn't be a genius scientist. He couldn't be a top level hero. He had to be resorted to the loser in the basement,
Well, they had to make room for, the others. How can they succeed if Peter Parker succeeds?
Yeah.
So the next part of the one he has three parts of his ethos. Respect the customer. The second is canon and continuity. There will be no cheap multiverses that have altered versions of the same character. If you own a book, you own a part of the history, and it's our mission to keep it that way. Canon is something that the comic book companies are throwing out so loosey-goosey now. That's not even throwing in
caution to the wind.
The film versions. Even in their own comic books, they are shitting all over canon and continuity. Might as well not even exist anymore.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like a lot of us as comic fans are used to, like Elseworlds and the Marvel Multiverse and Earth 617 and Earth 42485 or whatever all the different stuff out there. And if they had done this with some of this woke stuff, like let's call it Universe WOKE or whatever, like an alternate reality with all woke. I mean. And I don't have a problem with if they did that, make Woker Man and Woker Woman or what. I'm joking about the names, but you know what I mean. and try to sell that, and some people bought it. that would be okay as long as the rest of it that was still there for us to enjoy. I'm a libertarian. I believe everyone should be allowed to participate in the market, you know. But
Yeah.
when you're like, they're not pushing say the real Thor or the real Superman out, you know, like Earth One Superman or 616 Thor. They're not pushing them out of the mainstream because they're selling more, right? They're deliberately like manipulating them out of the mainstream, despite the fact they sell more, to leave you the only choice to buy this stuff that sucks. And what makes it worse, like okay, back in the '80s, you guys heard of John Byrne, Byrne. He big name for the X Men and Fantastic
I'm
Four.
not necessarily familiar.
Okay, so he was one of the big
But
comic
other people are
writers in the 80s.
certainly going to be.
Yeah. He was well known for writing the X Men and the Fantastic Four. He probably has the best Fantastic Four run in my lifetime in the '80s. Burns run, if I'm remembering it correctly. But he also was the guy who, like when DC did Crisis on Infinite Earths, and then they had to reboot each superhero in their own series. He wrote the Man of Steel miniseries that rebooted Superman. Okay, and it's a great miniseries. And anyway, so but when Byrne was on Alpha Flight, you guys, that's a Canadian superhero team. He made one of the characters, North Star, gay, and that was a new thing. Like, it wasn't that North Star was straight and became gay. He was always written as if he were gay, and Byrne just took it to the level of making it out in public, and none of us cared. It was like, okay, fine, he's gay. You know what I mean? And that was fine. And he didn't say, he didn't kill three characters off and put North Star and replace them with North Star. He just made North Star on the team, you know, and everyone was fine with it. But that's not what they're doing now with all this crap. It's not, you know, the market's big enough to have their woke stuff and to have our stuff and to have other people's stuff. It's a gigantic market. And this goes back to, get a little political here, cultural Marxism. They need to replace and deconstruct what's there to convince you and generations that their way is the reality. Like, an anecdote. So the second time I went to college, I was going for a degree called EET, which is like a biomed electronics degree. But like all of us who take real like science classes, you have to take like one humanities semester, I guess, right? So I'm in this like college composition class that I could have tested out of, but they just wouldn't let me do it. And the teacher was a lefty teacher, was making us write about this Michael Moore documentary he did about the fact that Mississippi finally ratified the 13th Amendment, like in 1990 or something like that, like 100, right? So this girl said, well, that meant that slavery was still legal in Mississippi. And I wanted to hit her. I really wanted, I wish my grandmother were alive in that room, because she would have slapped her. And I actually said, you know, there's this thing called the Constitution. Have you heard of that? And she goes, yeah. Did you ever read it? And she goes, no. And I said, I just said, I'm going to sit here silently. I'm going to do enough to get a C on this paper, because this is a bullshit humanity party impression that I just want my C so I can go back to my real engineering classes and not have to deal with this. And I shut up for the rest of the class, got actually a B, and didn't talk to any. They tried to kept drawing into these conversations, you know, because I wouldn't berate them. I try to have intelligent conversations. But after that girl did that, I refused to talk to any of them. Because that whole generation of people, like that Generation Y millennial area, they've been brainwashed. Not all of them, but you know, just you could talk to people and like I can't. You could see it on my face probably, why, you know. But that's what's going on with this woke stuff. Like, they just, you could read I don't know. There was, a matter of fact, it just went into my brain. It was about this comic thing. Something, a woke comic thing that happened a couple months ago, and they were the left Twitteries or whatever you want to call them. They were spreading some comment about this comic thing, and everyone was like, "No, that never happened." Like that literally, like, I don't know what it was. Like, the reality was it never happened, but because they had been taught that it happened, to them it did. Like that subjective reality, you know, type of thing, and that's what goes on with all this woke stuff. It's, you know, and Eric July is right in the sense that we have to make and also competitive marketplace. We have to make entities in the marketplace that will outcompete the ones that are doing this. I think like the Rippaverse or what Daily Wire is doing with they're now making movies and TV shows. What Tim Pool is doing, he's making his own TV channel basically with his
Oh yeah,
TV shows.
which is fantastic. I'm glad they're doing it.
You got to have, although the caution I always give is there's only one economy, okay, and you cannot just make a parallel. There's no such thing as don't make a parallel economy to go another planet and have no connection to the Earth. You know what I mean? So we participate in the same economy. We just have different mechanical means of doing so. So we cannot let them have control of the government, which is how you really control the economy, or they'll basically erase you. They'll prevent you from doing this. Like in Canada, you know who Viva Frey is, the lawyer. The yeah.
I think he's actually in Florida or on his way to Florida now.
He fled to Florida. Literally fled with his family to Florida because the last straw were the two last straws. One was a Montreal bill that said that specifically said that parents were no longer the final authority on their children, and the other one was the law that passed in Canada that will let the Canadian government censor things like YouTube the same way they censor TV, and radio up there. And when that happened, you can't have a competitive platform or competitive whatever because the lefties in control will just say nope, you're not allowed to talk. And then what do? You're stuck. Well, not me because I know how to use the dark web, but I mean, regular people can't load up a VPN, go to the router and chat or whatever. It's just so we can't seed the mainstream. We can't do that. We should also develop alternative platforms. And in a free market sense, that's better because more platforms mean more competition. The competition, as long as it's fair competition and not immoral competition, so to speak, improves the economy and will let the entities that are capable of profiting in it succeed, and those that are failing, like Disney's losing money. Who else is losing? Netflix has lost a massive amount of money, and now they're starting to wake up and
they lost a ton of money.
Yeah, starting to wake up and do some sensible
all these
stuff.
Companies they're just bleeding money right now.
Yeah,
and I think you kind of hit the nail on the head at the beginning when you're talking about introducing these new characters that, maybe they're part of this community. We bring in a character that they're gay, or maybe they're this, or maybe they're that, and depending on how you do it and how you introduce the characters, people sort of like, yeah, that's fine. It's whatever. But in the entertainment industry, especially in film, on the big screen adaptations now, they make these characters so one-dimensional where it's like that's the only thing you're supposed to focus on. It's like, oh, well, look at this character. They're a this or they're a that or whatever. It's like, okay, but what else? Like, it's the woke of...
Yeah.
I don't think people are so much upset about like a gay superhero or whatever. It's like how they portray it, where it's like, oh, this is the most important aspect of this character. Like,
so Zach's just brought up an interesting point, and I'm happy you're hanging out with us, Zach. I know he's
splitting his time.
I know Salty's got his thing on. I'm sure he intentionally torpedoed my 5 o'clock time slot because that was in the forefront of his mind. But compulsory military service, and that's not a popular idea for a lot of folks. I am actually in favor of it. And I think the world around us right now is a good reason why I am. It changes a lot of perspectives on how you view your country and the world in general when you have to do the military thing. Now, I wasn't compulsory. I served for 30 years I volunteered. That's what I did for 30 years. But if ever, I mean, Israel does this as well, but Israel, of course, is in a very different state than we are.
I was going to bring that up. And
right
and
now. But it does. It changes. It would change, not everybody's perspective, but I think a lot of the people who don't understand why the country should be great, and the way things are twisted and made to look through the lens of woke. I mean, the military is that way. And of course, I hadn't thought about that. Now that I say the words, the military is also woke now, which is not fantastic. I can't fix that.
I,
I'm going to jump back here to the Eric July. I want to talk about his the third part of his ethos, and this ties in very well with the second part with canon and continuity, comprehensive timeline. And if I'm talking to anybody here, I'm talking to DC Comics. Because we value canon and continuity, it's important that you are able to follow the timeline as these characters grow. With that being said, we promise to try to keep reboots to a minimum. If this means that we are in a series and it's the 100th issue or volume, so be it. There will also be an available official chronological timeline that is constantly updated by our company. So you know where you are in the Rippaverse timeline. DC has done so many garbage reboots over the years. I hate the New 52. I still hate the New 52. I'm still bitter about the New 52.
I kind of support you there. Although, again, I'll say I don't mind if another company was didn't have that strict a policy, but also didn't do woke comics, so to speak, and it was successful. On the DC thing, some of those reboots they did were because of legal reasons. Okay, they thought for a short period of time they were going to lose part of Superman's ownership, and so when they made, I don't know if you followed the lawsuit that eventually, which was a bogus lawsuit. Okay, and I never supported it personally, but ultimately, and a federal judge said, your husband did it as work for hire. He helped create Superman as work for hire. He sold all any existing rights away. But anyway, there was a brief period when they thought there were actually two brief periods, one in the 90s and then one then, when they thought they might lose it. And if you remember in the 90s, they had Superman Red and Superman Blue. We split into two beings. Yeah, that was the one time. And then when they did, remember they did the Infinite Crisis reboot, which I liked. And then they did the after that they did the next reboot right after that, right? Which was the New 52 reboot, and they did that one because again they thought they were going to lose some parts of Superman. Now here's the thing, and this is what people didn't understand, that if Superman is not one set of rights. There are things that DC, like the ability of Superman to fly, is something DC Comics owns. That was not invented by the creators of Superman. That was not invented in the Superman TV show, the 1930s Fleischman TV show. That's where Superman first flew. Okay, the fact that Superman is an alien from a planet called Krypton, that's not something that Superman's an alien from another planet. Last Survivor, that was Schuster and Siegel, but the fact that Krypton and all that was and the nature of Krypton was invented by DC, for example. Detective Comics. So that what they were going to lose was the ability to have the old style S symbol, if I remember correctly, the certain other things. So they wanted to strip a lot of those things out to begin with, and that's why Superman became like a entirely different persona. So he had to be depicted as not being that aw shucks farm boy type, because that was something that was in the license. So right. Remember, Superman was basically a D-bag, so to speak. If you didn't remember how he acted, he was a very not likable person, and he was a troll, if you want to put it another way. And so that's why they did that particular reboot, okay? And then when they eventually, the federal judge threw it out, that's when they basically dissolved him, brought back post-Infinite Crisis Superman, who was Silver Age Superman, restarted, and just merged him in through some sort of atomic thing that happened. They said that post-Icy Superman never got erased. He just lost his powers and was living as Clark Kent. And then when they merged the realities, and when Troll Superman died, he became energy and happened to be able to restart post-Icy Superman's powers, thus merging their timelines or whatever. That was the internal logic of what I'm saying.
Of course, when you're talking DC and Marvel, you're also talking about old franchises that have, and especially now, so many wickets going into them. Rippaverse, thankfully, right now, of course, we can't see 30 years into the future.
Yeah.
But it's starting at ground zero, and they have the ability to build from that.
Yeah.
And I'm just, I wanted to share. Actually, I brought up the wrong thing I wanted to share here.
And I did the Yaira package, Icon B with the female superhero, and I got the poster, so that's what I signed up for.
Yeah, I got the cover A, unautographed because I'm only a poor guy who is doing video in the garage. Where is the thing I wanted to share?
Well, I wish I could afford everything because I really wanted to support this, but I said, okay, I can get one poster and one comic, and I want the one with the hot chick. So,
So I wanted to share this. So this is from earlier this year. The number, I forget the top 100 comics or so. And if we look at who the publishers are, boom, Image, boom, Image. You get down to number 7 and you get Marvel. Then Image, IDW, Dark Horse, Image, Marvel. So your top, your top house, and I don't even know where the hell DC is.
It's a Batman title. That's about it.
Yeah, I'm still going down the line here. I haven't DC for whatever it's not even on here. But
Batman and Detective Comics outsell everything else DC puts together combined.
Yeah, they might as well dump all their other their lines because they're not. I mean, they've got a couple they've got out right now. I'm going to share just some things that are good right now that are out there. I can never say his name. Wakashi's Tea House. I'm gonna gumble. Blah, blah, blah. Gray in Japan does a great review every couple of days. It seems like he's churning out a new comic book review, and the titles out there that are Gunslinger Spawn looks like it's awesome. Oops, and I sped through everything.
What did
so
you
fast.
just do?
I don't know. But Gunslinger Spawn looks like it's really cool.
Yeah.
Some great cover work. Go ahead.
The first, I'm going to say 20 or 25 issues of Spawn are pure gold. It's one of the best non-Marvel. It's probably in the top 10, like 20 or 25 issues of a comic book series ever. Maybe even higher. There's a couple of dud issues in there that was stupid, but and I really love Spawn until he got way overpowered. Like the character works when he's kind of like street level but overpowered for the street, and occasionally can power up to deal with the big guys. And then when they made him like Thor level of power and then God level of power, and I was like, once you do that, you either have to reset the whole thing or nerf him, and it gets really, all the story gets repetitive. Like the story everyone knows, Dragon Ball Z. They all hit these universe level of powers, and now it's the same thing over and over again. Super Saiyan 19, Super Saiyan Blue 17, another power up that's the same exact thing, just more of it. And the Hulk can only get so angry. It's like
I don't know if he moved to California, he might reach a whole super level of Hulk.
As long as he's still played by Mark Ruffalo, he'd feel right at home here.
Yeah. Ruffalo did an okay job as the Hulk.
It's one of those things like Chris Evans. I like them as the actor as the character. I don't prefer them as a human. We have diverging opinions on a great many things.
I always say it this way: I would prefer to know of your work and accomplishments. I would just prefer not to know of you.
Yes,
100%.
Yes,
absolutely.
You're reading my mind, buddy.
Yep.
Because that was the thing. I liked Chris Evans as Captain America. I liked Mark Ruffalo as Bruce Banner. But once you start hearing bullshit about their personal lives, I'm just like, oh, I don't like you anymore. I try to separate the two. It's hard.
Well, the thing is, I always go see. I've been reading a lot of science fiction and whatever, and fantasy. I know most of those authors are lefties to begin with. So I always in my head separated their like real life stuff. Like the first we have George Martin, he's obviously a leftist, right? But the first 3 or 4 a Song of Ice and Fire books, Ice and Fire books, are pure gold. I mean, the first three are gold, like platinum even level, and the fourth and fifth are okay. Like they're really good, but I don't want to get into the whole Song of Ice and Fire where it went wrong thing. But I'm just saying I could separate the writers or artists' political stance from I listen to a lot of metal music. A lot of them are lefties, right? But I don't,
Oh, you know what? You just opened the door for a great segue.
Yeah.
Because we wanted to talk about a little bit who's been in the news lately. Our good friends in Rage Against the Machine.
Oh, fuck those guys.
Who are now back on stage. Now,
Well, I remember.
Rage,
You may see me waving the electric fly swatter around once in a while. That's for home entertainment purposes. But there's something in the air that needs to go. So, if I catch it on screen, you'll probably get a boost in your ratings.
Save that clip.
literally almost anything would help at this point.
It looks like a
I wait
little
for this
lightning
to-
bolt. It's like if you hit it right here, and let's say it flashed right here, you'd see the spark shoot out. But
It's probably also fun to hit your friends with.
well, when my aunt first got one of
Don't
these,
get
and we
any
were little,
ideas.
I'm just saying. Oh, here we go.
we all
So,
wanted to see what it felt like at the table like a couple years ago. So we also we're each gonna they're like all the grandkids, right? There's like 6 of us and plus some spouses. So we're all gonna shock the guy to the right of us or girl. And we all did it. I'm like, that's not too bad, So we did a couple rounds of it. Like it gets worse as you go, so we stopped. But we just wanted to see, how much power they were putting into it.
well,
But yeah,
You
Rage
know, they
Against the
say that
Machine.
if you want to put a shock collar on your dog, you should put it on yourself and test it first before you put it on your dog. So
well, I wish the fellas in Rage had put one of those on. So they returned to the stage on July 11th. And they had a series of just clever and fascinating messages behind them.
which I'm sure people were super shocked by.
Forced birth in a country where gun violence is the #1 cause of death among children and teenagers.
I don't think that's accurate.
First of all, that is incredibly inaccurate.
Well, before you get there, you say gun violence. At least 1/3 to 2/3 of gun violence are suicides. And that might be why you get a higher percentage of young. I mean, I've struggled with suicidal ideation. I have mental health issues. I'm in remission. I do my treatment or whatever. But I struggled with it in the past. And so I had to learn about this stuff. And I'm not an expert. Anyone listen, I'm not saying I'm an expert on this. I'm just telling you my experience. But all suicides inflate a lot of violence statistics because gun violence, knife violence, baseball bat violence, whatever you want, they throw suicides in there. And when you pull those out, the statistic drops like a rock. Yeah. And then when someone says, well, if we ban guns, there'd be no suicide, right? Then the suicide person says, you can take, and I'm not going to say it, a certain over-the-counter thing, a certain amount of it, and there's nothing they can do to save you, And it is a common thing that, so are you going to ban this over-the-counter thing? And they're going to be like, no, well, we need that. And, so that's the only point I want to make about the gun violence thing before.
Well, even with those stats, Matt, it's still wrong.
Yeah.
It's still just flat out wrong.
Yeah.
The #1 cause of death for children 1 to 14 is accidental death. That's your drownings, they fell, all that shit that happens is that. Gun violence in general, was like the #3 for young children, and that's I don't know what that stat exactly is. The what type of violence, it doesn't specify that, and that's in your youngest group. But to say it's the #1 across this broad base, this broad brush statement is factually wrong.
It's just virtue signaling bullshit.
Yeah.
It's virtue signaling bullshit. And a band that's charging $300 for tickets, they care about your bodily autonomy, right?
Oh, 100%. Yeah.
Even though they made you show your papers to get into their show.
I don't think they're actually doing it now, but initially when they scheduled this tour for last summer, which was postponed, rescheduled to this year. A year ago, if you were going to go see them in the summer of 2021, they were going to make you show papers to get into their show, to then stand there and say, fuck you, I won't do what you tell me to, waving your cards.
Yeah. There was Tim Ryan. You guys remember Tim Ryan, the Speaker of the House, about 12 years ago?
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry. Wrong button. I just... God damn me.
You hit the button, damn it. It's like...
I hit the wrong button.
But he was Tim Ryan. He was the Speaker of the House of the Republicans, I don't know, in the late the 2000s or whatever. He was a Rage Against the Machine fan. And they said, we don't want a Republican being our fan. And then a year or two later, he says, you guys should actually listen to your own music and then look at what the Democrats are doing right now.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly.
Yeah.
And of course, they also flashed, abort the court, because that's clever. This is a band that, based on their own ideology, would get arrested in the countries that they support. Read communist. You couldn't do it. You guys couldn't exist within that environment playing the music that you play, against...
Speaking out against your government, against your leaders, against your law enforcement.
That's the whole thing I mentioned before. They're uneducated, and the communists like that because the way they get in is they use these uneducated thugs, basically, to take the system over. Then they purge not only the thugs, but the people who are smart in the other system. Historically, the World War II German socialists used to have something called the SD, who were their thugs, their dumb, youthful, uneducated thugs. When they took over, they purged them and replaced them with something called the SA. When Mao took over in China, he had the Cultural Revolution. 10 million people got purged, and that was one of Mao's first genocide. And you could find any time that the Marxists take over, they use the dumb, uneducated thugs and then purge them and other people once they take over. It's a systemic pattern. It's obvious, but Rage Against the Machine.
Yes, it happens every time.
Yeah, and I'm not.
Well, the thing that always cracks me up about bands like Rage Against the Machine, or anyone wants to talk about, do I think country is absolutely not? Do I think it's places 100%? But these same people, like you're saying, it's like they want to speak out against the government. They want to speak out against our leaders. They want to speak out against our law enforcement. They want to burn American flags. You know what? At the end of the day, I can disagree with it and I can not like it, but I can still stand by the fact that if you go out and buy an American flag, that if you buy it with your own money, you didn't steal it or take it off of a government building, and if you want to burn it and stomp on it, you are protected by the Constitution to do that. I don't like it, but you have the freedom to do it. But the irony that people don't realize that it's like, because you live in a country that has these freedoms, you have the freedom to burn and stomp on your country's flag to say that you don't have freedom.
Yeah.
Just, again, it's like, I can sit there and I don't like it, I disagree with it, but I understand you have the right to say that you're fucking...
Well, you're breaking up a little bit.
I'm sorry, were you ever a Pantera fan?
Me? Oh, yeah. I've been a Pantera fan since I was like 11.
Have you heard the latest news?
Vinny,
Then
the two surviving members, basically, not the brothers, they want to do a tour.
Yep. Yeah. Now, after all these years, they want to get the band back together now that half of them are dead.
I don't have a real problem with that.
Shows like this.
Only because it's a common thing in music that surviving members of the band, get some new members and keep going. I mean, now if they don't sound like Pantera, then I have a problem with it. But Leonard Skinner, I mean, half the band died and they're still making music 30 years later. all those '50s acts, like I mean, you can still find them performing concerts and the '50s with different band members and the kids of band members. Eventually, the mamas and the papas became the sons and the daughters, but still called the mamas and the papas. I mean, that in and of itself, I was like, okay, if the musician if all they're going to do is tour and play the old music with some guys filling in, or they make new music which sounds the same, I'm okay with that. Now, if Pantera becomes like I don't know, a rap band or something, or Pantera starts sounding like one of Phil's other acts, like Down or something like that, then that's not Pantera.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But people overrate I mean, I get why some people will be upset, but I'm 49. I've lived through so many musical bands doing this that it just doesn't drive me crazy. Now, I'll give you one that does drive me crazy though. Okay, the band Heart.
Yep.
The Wilson sisters, right?
The Wilson.
So, yeah, but in 2019, they decided that they couldn't work together anymore, despite the fact that they still make 10 or 20 million a year easy just from doing like one concert a month. That's how much people love that band. So they each made their own version of Heart, and that's how they're touring now. And I'm like.
I would say, I think the weird thing with this though is, like you're saying with bands, if they continue on, if band members leave, band members pass away, and the band continues on, fine. But like Pantera broke up.
It's been a minute.
Over 20 years ago. That lineup of Bag with Vinnie Paul, with Rex Burl Anselmo. So it, like the iteration of the band we saw was with two people who were no longer living. So I kind of, at the end of the day, yeah, it's like I'm not livid, I'm not angry, but it's just kind of at this point of like, now, like why now? Now, I think when a lot of fans think of Pantera, they think of Dimebag. So like Pantera without Dimebag, it's like, what are you doing? Now Vinnie Paul's gone. Like,
I think of Dimebag and Phil. I mean, there's no Pantera without both of those two in there. The his vocals plus that guitar work, that's Pantera. So just like and the Pantera knew that when Phil left, they formed Damage Plan. You guys ever hear of Damage Plan?
What's happening?
You lagged out a little bit.
The mouse. I apologize. Puts too much instability on the system.
Yeah. Gavin
Stone
used some
Temple
time
Pilots,
dilation
and they're revolving and dying singers. Being the singer for Stone Pilots was like the
death sentence.
Drummer for Spine. and I hate to say that in a mean way, but it's not entirely inaccurate. And mother of God, go! I'm pulling. Get off that seat. There we go. Lord. So what's Stone Temple without? Not really.
Well, I like some of their songs.
Chester in there for a set.
Yeah. I was never really impressed by it.
They are in no way similar.
Yeah.
It just wasn't the same band anymore. Not much anymore.
But they have another new singer now.
They do, the Clone, right?
I just know that they're still touring.
Are
have
they
you seen the venues they're touring?
No.
Well played, Matt. Well played. Yeah, because it was like a dude who won a competition singing like Weiland. That's who they got in there because they had young Chester, the kid from Lincoln Park,
yes,
who had met in
Chester,
Untimely as well.
Chester
and again, Bennington. So again, forgive the gallows humor with the singer for Stone Temple Pilots is like the drummer for Spinal Tap, but then you end up with the Clone right now, and still on albums because I wonder every now and then, but no one cares. The magic is gone. Few bands survive
Yeah,
that kind
that I agree with.
of, especially when it's a popular member of the band. Can it happen?
singer.
Yes, but it's such a rarity that you're talking just
I think
the single digits of
singer
performers.
is harder to replace. You replace a guitar player, the guitarist can learn the parts. You replace a drummer, the drummer can learn the drum part. You replace a singer, that's like the sound
Like
that people.
ACDC. ACDC was one of those anomalies.
They did it, but it was early on where.
Well, Journey's done it 3 times now.
Brian Jones.
Yeah, they only
Brian
had so many
Johnston?
albums with the first guy. Yeah.
What happened to the little Filipino guy? Is he gone now?
Who? The new guy?
Andrew?
You're breaking up a little bit again.
The little fella, because you had Steve. God damn my feed.
Are we on Journey or are we on
Because
ACDC?
We'll go back to Journey. So you had Steve Perry, and then he was gone.
There
And
were
then
two.
they didn't really have a band for a while, right?
There were two Steves, right? And then now they have the new guy who's he's from the Philippines. He's actually the best of all their singers.
Oh, he's
by
still
the way.
with them then. Okay, the little
Yeah,
fella.
yeah. His voice was starting to go for a while. Like they thought he might have to be replaced because his voice was starting to go, but that was because he was singing too much. So that they get because he never had a lifetime of training the way. So they got him and he's doing okay again. At least as of 2020, I haven't last year or whatever.
Damn. Zach's roboting hard.
Yeah.
I can't.
But,
I don't even know what to do with this shit anymore.
But like on this topic in general, Queen, Queen had a guy from American Idol who sings with them now. There's never going to be another Freddie Mercury. We all know that. But
Right. Yeah.
he still sounds pretty good when he does some of the old hits.
Yeah.
And if Queen knows they're not going to be making new albums, they're just doing tours to play the nostalgia stuff and be a band and play together. And if that's what Pantera does and plays the old hits, and they get a decent enough guitarist to sound 80% of Dimebag, and I don't know if I'll ever go to another concert again because of my health. If I'd probably go see them again.
Yeah.
Just to get here live.
I guess the main thing that I hope they don't do is whoever comes in to play guitar for them, I hope they don't try to make him look like Dimebag. Make his go and like the hair. They're gonna bring in a new member, just let him be a member, but like don't dress him.
Well, it would be, how do I put it? I wouldn't be surprised if it's just it's a guy who's already known and he's just filling in. Like for example,
and that's all it's
Slayer's,
gonna be is you're gonna have
Slayer's about to
such-
retire, right? So there's two guitarists right there who could probably fill in for in Pantera very easily.
Yeah.
Uh,
and I can even say I've seen Alice in Chains live twice with the new singer, and do I love their newer albums with the new singer? Their new music is okay, but live, I mean, the new singer still does a good job. I still enjoyed the show. It was still a good time.
But there's a but.
Was it Lane Staley? No. Did he do the old songs justice? Yes.
I've heard the new singer on Alice in Chains. I'm not saying I dislike when he sings the older stuff, right? But he's not Lane. I could hear to me, it's not Lane. Just like when I hear someone else sing Queen, it's not Freddie Mercury. Lane is. I mean, if I would have named the top 10 male vocalists in my lifetime, Lane and Freddie are going to be in there. Pavarotti,
100%.
Burton
he's
Bell,
I mean, I'm not saying he's like an exact replica or an exact copy, but you go to a
but,
show, everything's loud and it's cranking.
Yeah. No, I'm not saying it's not enjoyable, but the new singer, when they do the newer songs that are written for him, I find I like them a little bit.
Right.
Because I mean, the reality is Alice in Chains is really Jerry Cantrell. I mean, Lane was a great singer,
right?
But if Lane got big because he sang Jerry's songs. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And Jerry keep writing the good music.
Well, and also the magic was those two voices together. Lane and Jerry.
It was their vocal harmonies. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing. A lot of bands, I don't understand why more bands don't do that. Like they do a lot of main vocal and supporting vocal, but if you think of some like Alice in Chains or Nightwish, well before Marco left anyway, uh, that when you get that dual vocal setup between two leads, or there's a band called Bandmade, a Japanese female rock band. Uh, if you they have dual lead vocals in that band, and when you can get that good dual lead vocals with a singer, a songwriter who knows how to write the music for them, you know, um, it's or Queen. Queen. This is despite what people don't know this, but Queen had 3 lead vocalists. Uh, the only one who didn't sing on a regular basis was Brian May. you know,
Yeah.
Freddie, Roger, and they all sang. You know what I mean? They all have bands on the side where they sang too. You know, and so when you get that good balance, people can write songs with that dual or even triple lead vocal. I'm surprised more bands don't go for that. You know what I mean? You know, it's just an amazing sound.
It's a little harder to tune in the vocals and just everything. You can tune a guitar. That requires a lot more talent. I would say that newer bands and artists now are lazy, but
I think I hate to say this, but I think I'm succumbing to that. Once you hit past 40, it's tough to find new music because you're not as energized about going out to listen to it. You know, I still try to I'm
actually finding older bands.
Yeah. Why? Because of my
like the Animals. I never listened to the Animals.
You've never
now
listened to the Animals?
About 2 of their.
Well, my mom and my aunt were hippies, so all that sticks.
My lineup.
Yeah. You know, but I saw all that old.
Mother was an idiot, a drunk, and a fan of disco. So.
Oh Lord.
I grew up with disco too, and my mom got into disco. My mom, they're both hippies, right? My mom and my aunt.
Go into a wrap up time here.
Okay.
Because we're now we're starting to get into the Zach zone, and that's just gonna. It is what it is. For
he might unleash his fury that he reserves for the Incredible Hulk upon us. You know. And people who don't get that joke,
so
Zach is one of the first Incredible Hulk.
Before we sign off here, Matt, you got anything?
Yeah, I'm actually prepped.
Matt, is there anything you want to sign off with?
Yeah, I am prepped to record an article, or about an article, and it's one of the most preposterous things I have ever read. And have you guys heard of Naruto, like the manga and the anime?
No.
If you never watched, you might have seen references to it.
No, I'm not an anime dude.
Well, it's one of the most popular mangas and animes of all time, if not the most popular, right? And there's a villain in there named Orochimaru, he makes Hitler and Emperor Palpatine look like good guys. Okay? So this article, because of how the character works out, are claiming he's a representative of LGBTQ lifestyles as an icon. And I'm like, what are they are they going this far? I mean, what it's like the biggest reach, you know. It's like someone claiming Palpatine was a champion of urban development because he waded to Alderaan, you know. So that's what I'm working on right now. I'm ready to record it. I just got to hold back the vitriol of my voice when I read what I typed, you know. And then plus reviews of I'm working my way through Stranger Things from the beginning. There's a cool show called Dark Winds, The Orville, and finishing up Outer Range, and on and on. That's kind of what I'm working on. And getting ready to kill my soul when Rings of Prime come out in the fall.
Oh Lord, yeah.
You'll see me bleeding.
I don't even think I can hate watch that when it comes out.
Oh, I'll hate watch.
Yeah,
I'm gonna
do
a.
I ain't no Kenobi for that.
I'm going to do a hate watch and an analytical watch. I'll get out of my system with the hate watch.
I gave up on Kenobi after episode 3. I never finished it. I watched your breakdown of the final episode to be like, okay, I don't have to watch the rest. I just want some spoilers.
Yeah. You know.
That's
What are
I'm
you guys
here for.
working on?
John, what's your next project?
I've been largely absent because I've started a new job that's very soul sucking lately. But well, here I am, and but otherwise, you can find on YouTube as Creative Blue Collar Guy, on Instagram as Creative Blue Collar, and whenever I find the time or energy to post something, that's where I am.
All right, on. I always enjoy John's videos because he looks at some weird music stuff that it's worth checking because you may actually find something you like to listen to. So that's the part of the discovery part of YouTube, the part that's not all tainted and dirty and grimy and filthy, and you need a hose to get it off of you later.
Every once in a while, I try to put something out there that's like, hey, this is something I like, rather than bitching about everything. Lord, I complain. I can complain. But every once in a while, I want to say, here's something good that I enjoy.
So, Matt, I'm going to throw a band at you. Check them out because you're talking about the Japanese artists. So this is a band out of Hong Kong called David Boring.
David Boring.
I found them on an Anthony Bourdain episode. David Boring. I like them. They are fantastic. So like Sonic Youth met Hong Kong, and you get something like that, and it's a very interesting sound, and I really dug it. So I'm just gonna just throwing that at you as we close up for the evening here.
Okay.
You sitting and chatting with us. I wish the technical difficulties had been less, but apparently that is just part of my stream, and I'd like to embrace it, but I can't do that. So stay cool over there where you are, and the same. And for everybody that was watching while we were live, and everybody who's going to check it out afterwards, because my post viewership is far better than my live viewership, thank you for coming. I hope you enjoyed the content. Please like and subscribe to the Unbearable 73, the Creative Blue Collar Guy, and Roman of the Empire. We'll see you soon. Signing off. Be kind. Just for the love of God. What's he doing?
Yeah, we got to do something about your lag.
There. I know. Fuck.